What's up guys, welcome back to the poker vlog. For this episode, we're doing something a little bit differently. I'm gonna talk about the concept of downswings. As most of you guys know, I went on a big downswing in February. I just got smoked. Everything I did seems wrong. I felt like I was stuck in a washing machine or sucked under a wave or something like that. I just couldn't do anything right, couldn't win. Fortunately, it came right after a big upswing. It was actually the biggest upswing in my life. I won 37K over 7 months, but I didn't really play that many hours. I was focused on the videos. It's a little bit tougher to deal with a downswing after a big upswing. It just wasn't that used to losing, and so it was tough to make mental adjustments. I did a lot of things that were stupid, played bad, ran bad. There were a lot of things that contributed to it. But yeah, I wanted to do this whole video. I didn't film that many sessions in February because I was going through this losing period, and I really just needed to focus on playing. Doing the videos is somewhat distracting. So I documented as much as I could on Instagram, and I did make a few videos about it, but I think it's such an important topic that I wanted to make a video specifically on it. So I'm gonna go through a few different sections. I'm gonna talk about my downswing. I'm gonna talk about what to do to help yourself get out of a downswing, what you shouldn't do, and how to try and avoid them in general. So, a downswing is when you go through a prolonged period of just getting your ass kicked in poker. It happens to everybody. I think it's pretty normal to lose, 6 to 10 or more buy-ins for whatever stake that you're playing. I think that's gonna happen once every year, or it depends on the games that you play and how much action there is and all kinds of various things like that. But if you're going through a downswing, you're obviously going to lose a lot of money. You may or may not lose a cat. I miss you, buddy. And if you have a significant other, you're almost definitely going to break up with that individual.
In the poker game of life, women are the rake.
Okay, that was a little bit of a joke, but it definitely is stressful on any relationship when you are going through a downswing. There's a book called Treat Your Poker Like a Business. Super good book. Actually one of my favorites of all time. Talks about a lot of important topics if you're trying to become a professional poker player. But one of them is a topic on relationships, and it's written by the author's wife. And she just has a lot of tips about saying the right things and being supportive if you are dating somebody or married to somebody who's a professional poker player. So you may want to purchase this book and show it to your significant other, because it's going to make the downtimes a lot easier if you have someone who supports you. So we're going to talk about my downswing now. It happened as soon as February started. I noticed that I just wasn't playing my best. It first started on February 1st. I put out a video of it where I punted off at 2,500 at Bellagio and 510. I just bluffed it off. There was no good reason for it. And that was the first time I punted off my whole stack in several months. I don't know quite what got into me. Fortunately, I stuck around and only ended up losing $60 on the session. I got most of it back, but that's when I noticed that I just wasn't quite playing my best. Actually, I wasn't playing nearly my best. I sucked. So I lost in a few other sessions after that. Nothing too big. I think they were like $1,000 losses in 2-5, which is pretty typical. Just kind of running bad. Didn't really matter that much. And then February 13th is when everything started getting a lot worse. That was the worst part of the downswing. I lost $5,500 in one night, which is my biggest losing session that I've ever had. Was running bad in the beginning, and then I was playing bad, and I got in an argument with my girlfriend while I was at the tables, which was not good. I got set over set in a 3-bet pot. It was like a $4,700 pot. And then an hour later, I flopped middle set against the worst player at the table, and he drilled a gut shot straight draw on me. We got it all in. I got stacked again. So I was stuck maybe 4,500 at that point, was gonna just call it a day, but I didn't really wanna go back home. So I stuck around at the poker room. The must move looked really good, so I hopped into that and got it in with kings versus jack 7 on a 9-7-5 board in a 3-bet pot, and then he just runnered a boat on me. So that was really rough, and it was just a brutal day. Like I said, I ran bad, but I could have played better, could have minimized the damage, could have just gone home. It was clearly not my day. Fortunately, I've gotten out of that. About a month later, I recovered all my losses. I still ended up losing 4,500 for the month of February, but I was happy that it didn't get any worse than the 8K. So yeah, things are going well. You know, if you go through a downswing, you'll eventually get out. Don't worry too much. Try not to panic. And now let's go over a few more tips. What to do when going through a downswing. None of this is going to be that groundbreaking. I just think it's good if I kind of share some insight, share some things that have helped me. First thing is that you should take a break from poker. This is kind of standard, typical advice, but you're definitely not going to be playing your best if you're upset about losing, and you should just try to clear your head, realize that life goes on, and you'll be much happier the next session that you play. You'll be in a better mindset, and hopefully you'll get out of that downswing. Second is to study. A lot of times when I'm losing, I find that I'm not making the correct plays. I'm unsure about my skill set, and if I'm studying poker books or training sites, then it just kind of reinforces the strategy that I think is correct, and it helps me play better, helps me focus and get into the right mindset. Also, another thing you can do is to write down all the big hands that you play, and you should actually do this whether you're on a downswing or not. I found that that's the single biggest helpful thing that you can do is to write down your hands. That's what's helped me a lot doing these poker vlogs. I've written down all the key hands, I've analyzed them, and I think I've improved a lot over the last year and a half. Also, talking with friends. The tough thing about downswings is that not a lot of people are going to be able to relate to you, right? Like people who are outside of poker, they don't know what it's like to show up at work and lose money, so they might tell you some things that aren't really going to be helpful. You know, they'll say, oh, well, maybe you should just quit poker, because they don't understand the negative variance and they don't understand how long the variance can last for. That's probably the scariest thing about downswings, is you don't know when you're going to come out of it. Okay, play lower. This is something that most people don't do. I don't really play lower. I think you should, because you will be playing against people who probably aren't as good. It'll be easier to book a win, get that confidence back up, and I think it's really important to do that, even though I tend not to. So just don't do what I do, just do kind of as I tell you. Playing shorter sessions. This is kind of goes along with playing smaller as well. If you're playing shorter sessions, you're either going to have smaller losses or you can book a win and get that confidence back up. I think that's really important. Look back at your graph and realize that you've gotten out of downswings before. I mean, this is advice mainly, I'm assuming you guys are winning players, so it's really important to keep track of all your stats. If you're not, then you don't know, if you're getting better or how much money you're making. These are all really important things that you need to know if you're playing poker for a living or if you're just taking it as a serious hobby. One thing that I did when I first started playing poker too was I used to set alarms on my phone. I would say the alarms would have notes on them saying, is the game still good? How are you playing? How are you feeling? Are you tired? All those kind of things, just to kind of take me out of the poker zone, look at things from the outside a little bit, and that has been super helpful. The last thing is to remember the good things in your life. If you have a lot of money to play poker, if you can afford to lose a couple $100 or a couple $1,000, chances are life's pretty good. Hopefully you have a good support system, good friends, good family. Think about those things. Take yourself out of the mindset that, poker isn't going well, because poker is not the most important thing in life, hopefully. Now we're going to talk about what not to do. And I do a lot of these things. I think most people are guilty of it. The first one is don't play higher. If you're down a few $1,000s playing 2-5, for instance, you think that you've been running bad and you want to get unstuck for the session or for the week. You think, all right, well, I got the bad luck out of my system. The good luck's coming. I know it. And when it is, I want to make sure I'm playing big. Fortunately, that's not the right mindset. If you're stuck, you're probably not playing very well. And if you're playing higher, you're probably going to be up against better players. So this isn't a recipe for getting unstuck. It's a recipe for getting stuck even more. Second is don't chase and try and get it all back in one session. It's fine to play short sessions, book small wins, get it back incrementally. It's just not that important to get it all back at once. Third, you don't want to deviate from your normal winning strategy. This is something that I'm super guilty of. If I'm losing, if I'm stuck, I want to get it back. I hate losing, so I tend to widen my pre-flop range. I tend to bluff a lot more, tend to play like a monkey. Sometimes it works out, but more often than not, I just get stuck a lot more and I have big losing sessions. Not good. Don't panic. Everybody loses, everyone goes through bad luck. It's just part of poker. So it's not that big of a deal. The last thing is don't take it out on people that you're close to. When you're losing, it's easy to become annoyed at little things, and that's just not conducive to having good relationships with people around you. You're going to be more upset, and it could cause you to play worse in the future and prolong your downswing. The last topic we're going to discuss is how to avoid downswings. You're never going to be able to avoid them altogether. There's going to be times where you just run bad. You're going to get it in with aces versus kings. Kings are going to suck out on you. Various other ridiculous things will happen, and you inevitably will go through a losing period. But there are a few things that I can tell you that I hope will help minimize the downswings or spread them out. The first thing I want to talk about is really important. It's that being successful in poker doesn't really have to do with your skill set as you may think. A lot of it has to do with good bankroll management and good game selection. There's no reason to be sitting in a game with 6 or 7 pros. Just unless there's a few whales in the game, or some people argue that it's fine to sit in tough games because then you can learn from the pros, and that's fine if that's your mindset. If you want to do that, that's cool. I think that's a little bit silly. For me, I'm trying to make as much money as possible. I'm going to learn along the way. There's plenty of other training sites and ways to improve that is going to be more efficient and less costly. Second is you want to be prepared mentally. That means you want to be, you don't want to be playing when you're hungry or tired, or when something's bothering you, when you're in a fight with your girlfriend. There's a book called The Mental Game of Poker by Jared Tendler. He actually made 2 of these. I haven't read the second one yet, but this book is super good. Talks about dealing with tilt, risk aversion, all kinds of topics that might be affecting your game. But one of them is running bad, dealing with negative variance. Definitely check out that book. I'll have a link down below in the description box for that too. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. The last thing is don't play above your bankroll. It's way easier to play when losing a buy-in or 2 or 3 doesn't really affect you that much. So a good rule of thumb is that you want to have 6 months of life expenses in your bankroll plus 50 buy-ins. Most poker players don't abide by this, but if you can abide by it, then it'll be very helpful and you can play optimally. That's pretty much it for this topic, guys. I know I didn't cover everything. Actually, if you have any suggestions, anything that you think might help, leave it in the comment section. I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit the like and subscribe buttons. And like I said, comment if you have anything else to say. Hope you're doing well. Good luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time.